At this point, how about we have a dialogue with our governor? Let me introduce Governor Pat McCrory. I've got a short bio that I think we want to take advantage of. Well, come on up there. Thank you.
I didn't want to waste time on a bio.
Well, listen, I do appreciate you joining us here today. And, you know, we met with Governor McCrory shortly after he got in office, the executive committee with the North Carolina Business Committee for Education. And he just told us that he was absolutely committed to us and the work we do, and very appreciative of that. And that was certainly delightful for us to hear, because anytime you have a change in administrations, it leaves some level of uncertainty. I'm happy to say that all of us have been, we've enjoyed being nonpartisan and being, by the way, part of several administrations on both sides, and we've endured, because I think that everyone recognizes our commitment to our students and our children in the state of North Carolina. So I do appreciate, Governor, your commitment. We have some questions for you to.
Well, before you ask me questions, I do want to just let the business community know some of our challenges very quickly, and then I'd like to have a conversation with you and the moderator. I do want to let you know we're trying to focus all of our attention, 95% of our attention in our administration, including John Scavala here, who's our Dean or Secretary in the front, and Bill Kobe, who's the Chairman of the State Education Board. I also do want to introduce Eric Gutman, who is my new Education Policy Advisor. Please recognize him, give him a round of applause. I just want to let you know our major focus is on three issues: the economy, education, and government efficiency. And all three of those overlap. And something I've recognized in my first 6 months in government is that almost 90% of our issues regarding both the economy, regarding education, and regarding government efficiency are operational issues. We tend to always think they're policy issues, and there are very important policy issues that we need to change that deal with operations, but a lot of it are basic operational issues. Is there a better way that we can get our product delivered and get good results? And when talking to teachers, when talking to superintendents, when talking to university presidents and chancellors, and when talking to many of you, a lot of the breakdown are basic operations. And I think you see that. I come from business, and usually a lot of the issues are operational issues. They aren't sexy, they aren't fun to deal with, but that's where you need to concentrate your time. And very quickly, I do want to let you know some of the operational issues we're dealing with have to deal with the 4 silos of education. There's early childhood education, or pre-K, as many people know it, but Governor Hunt likes to use the term early childhood education. There is K through 12, there's community college, and then there's university. And right now, from an operational standpoint, something I've recognized is that we're dealing with them in silos as opposed to a process and a strategy. And we're not thinking about what is the transfer from one to another, what is the process and strategy and outcome of each one, and what are the partnerships that we can develop in each one. I really recognize this during the budget season because each one came to me with a budget without talking to the other. And in fact, in a way, we pitted one against the other. You know, the university system would come and say, well, we need this money, but don't worry about the others. They weren't really saying that, but it was coming across that way, and vice versa with every one of them. We're all pitting against each other for the same dollars, when in fact we should be sharing partnerships and a joint strategy with each one. And the final conclusion I want to tell you is in business community. We have got to do a better job, and that's why I want to talk, and that's why I'm working with Sue Breckenridge so closely, is how can we connect the business community in the decision-making process with pre-K, with K through 12, with community colleges and universities to make sure you're at the table. Because my ultimate goal is to find you the talent necessary to get your job done. Because if we do not find the talent for industry in North Carolina, industry will go elsewhere. And even though we have the 5th highest unemployment rate in the country at this point in time, I'm getting feedback from industry that we cannot find the talent necessary to do the job. So to me, there's a disconnect right now between industry and education. If we have the 5th highest unemployment rate, which is inexcusable, and yet we can't find talent, that means we need to do a better job in bringing together education and business. Because in our economic development efforts, I've got to recruit and retain industry and get them to grow. And education has got to be an integral part of our economic development strategy. So Sharon Decker, who is my economic commerce chairman, secretary, says, I've got to have education at the table when we recruit industry. But in doing so, we've got to tell them what our strategy and what our brand is for education. Not just the university brand, or not just the 2-year brand, or not K through 12 brand. What is our education brand for all of North Carolina? And it's got to be clearly explained, and we've got to be able to say it in a sound bite. We've got to be able to say it in a 20-minute Rotary Club speech, and we've got to say it in your boardrooms and to economic development recruiters. And that's going to be one of our short-term goals, working with the Education Cabinet, which includes the Superintendent of Education, who's in the room, which includes the Tom Ross, the head of the university system, which includes Scott, the head of the 2-year community college, which includes Aldona Voss, my Secretary of Health and Human Services, who's in charge of millions of dollars of pre-K. We've all got to be in the same room and develop this brand. Chris Estes, who's in charge of my IS, is in the front row. He comes to me and says, Pat, in education alone, you've got 30 or 40 different computer systems and IS systems, and they don't talk to each other, and yet we're spending millions upon millions of dollars. Boy, that's an aha moment. I know this doesn't happen in your private business.
Not at all.
I know you don't have any of that issue, but we've got to break down these silos. And then we've got to have a joint brand and strategy with results to find talent so our kids can get jobs once they graduate from either high school or 2-year or 4-year colleges or graduate schools. We need talent in each one of those areas for a viable workforce and a viable future for North Carolina. So that's my thought process. These are operational issues and policy issues combined.
Well, I got to tell you, we're anxious to work with you on that, and you are preaching to the choir somewhat as it relates to moving from silos to integrated enterprises. That's certainly something we've done in my company, and most of us have had to wrestle with that, and we're anxious to share with you what we've done and work with you to accomplish that. You mentioned the Education Cabinet. Can you talk to us a little bit? I know you reformed the Education Cabinet. Can you talk to us a little bit about your goals for the Education Cabinet? Yeah,
actually by North Carolina charter, there's supposed to be an Education Cabinet in North Carolina. They had not met in 3.5 years. And I figured, you know, as the new governor, why don't we get them together? Governor Hunt had done this, and Governor Hunt and I have had many conversations. And this is composed of the head of the 2-year community college system, the chairman of the school board, the superintendent of schools who's elected, the head of the university system, the head of the private college system, and I may be missing 1 or 2 more. We have set up some objectives. We had our first meeting 3 or 4 weeks ago. We've got another meeting in the next week. We're going to develop a brand for North Carolina education. So you can clearly communicate to your employees and to potential customers, this is the brand of education for North Carolina. This is how we do it, and these are the objectives we want. And we're going to do it together as a team. We're going to develop in future budgets a joint budget. Instead of the budget being developed in silos, we might actually have the university system talking to K through 12 and the community college system and say, where can we share resources, where is there duplication, things of this nature. We're going to be looking at how we can get you and business involved in economic development recruitment and have education at the table. Have the 2-year community college president at the table, at the front end, not the back end. Those are 3 or 4. We have 5 or 6 other objectives I haven't gotten in front of them, but these are tough objectives. And I'm going to be dealing with little issues right now. I just talked to Mark Edwards, the head of the Superintendent Association, just got off the phone with him. And I'll tell you, he's getting feedback saying we have too many tests for our teachers. We're measuring the wrong things, and our teachers aren't being able to teach anymore. So we're going to be questioning some things we're doing also, and seeing if we can come up with a joint teamwork on how we can work with our teachers and principals and superintendents and college professors. But I need y'all at the table, and that's why this organization is so important. Commerce has got to be at the table of education. If I only talk to education leaders, I'm telling you, we're all in silos, and sometimes education leaders, frankly, don't know where money comes from. I'm sorry. Sometimes I hear from them, I go, guys, wait a minute, it's the business community that's providing the tax dollars for this stuff. We've got to support commerce and vice versa. It's got to be a two-way street. I need both at the table. So we hear from the educators and the educators hear from business. In fact, one person at the table, we're examining who else should be at the table, and maybe it should be someone from business in the education cabinet. How's that for thinking?
We'd welcome the opportunity. Absolutely. I'm curious. We've had some success, and I've looked at and seen that we've got new industries coming into North Carolina and other industries that are renewing their commitment. As we've had that success, has there been anything that really stood out that's either enabled or been a challenge to enable businesses to be attracted so far that you've seen?
The positive news is during my first 5 or 6 months in office, we're getting incredible inquiries into North Carolina and new businesses coming here, primarily in the Charlotte market and the Raleigh market and some in the Wilmington market. I think our biggest challenge is we've got to figure out how to recruit and retain businesses in the mid-size and small towns that are in or around these major metropolitan areas. We also have a major challenge. Greensboro and the Triad's coming back, but manufacturing hit them so hard, so we've got to have some special strategy there too. And I think there's some strategy around infrastructure and other opportunities around the airport, which Governor Hunt knows much about. But I think our challenge is I even met with Bob Ingram, who's the head of the Research Triangle, and they're trying to rebrand the Research Triangle. He showed me the plan, and I said, can you take your circle out 90 miles beyond the Research Triangle? Don't just show me the circle of the Research Triangle. Take it out 90 miles and include Roxborough, include Pittsboro, include other towns, and have them be inclusive in that economic development plan. So that's kind of my aha moment, is we've got to integrate the urban metropolitan regions with the rural regions because they cannot stand on an island by themselves. They will not survive, and we've got to integrate it. We also have recognized in DOT, we're introducing brand new legislation which will completely reform transportation, and it's due to our economic development plan. For example, the Roanoke Rapids area or Elizabeth City area, I'm about to say something controversial. Their best connectivity to future jobs is probably Norfolk, Virginia. This is coming from the governor of North Carolina. And so maybe our best chance, very similar to what South Carolina, Rock Hill and Lancaster County in South Carolina, I'm former mayor of Charlotte, they connect to Charlotte. In fact, their economic development brochure shows the Charlotte skyline with a jet taking off from Charlotte Airport, and it says, come to Rock Hill, South Carolina. Well, why aren't we doing the same thing in Elizabeth City or Roanoke Rapids? And also having education be a part of that with Elizabeth City State University and selling that in the Virginia market. And that's kind of unique thinking that a North Carolina governor is saying part of our future is also tying into the port of Norfolk. Same thing's true in Wilmington. Same thing's true in Asheville and Boone. There's Tennessee connections. And I think there's some incredible education connections where we can steal with Appalachian State University in Western Carolina and UNC Charlotte, UNC Wilmington, Elizabeth State University, that goes across the border both ways, not just one way, North Carolina to South Carolina. I want South Carolina to here and Tennessee into here and Virginia into here. So I think education can play a role in addition to some of these companies playing a role with the infrastructure. So our new mobility formula will be thinking in a new way in that, on how we build our roads and where we build our roads, and we want to build our roads to connect rural with urban, rural with ports, and also connect our educational institutions in a better way.
Thank you.
So that's kind of an
Now,
aha moment in the last 5 months.
Sue is motioning to me because I know you've got a tight schedule.
Yeah.
So my question is, do you have any question for us before you leave? And if
I think the main question to you, and it's not a question, but we need to develop, I need from you a strategy to connect you with our, not due to just relationships, because relationships come and go with whoever's the head of our schools and who's ever head of the, the branch manager. Mm-hmm. We need a strategic approach which is sustainable to connect the marketplace with what the educational needs are and vice versa, that outlast the leaders. Mm-hmm. So I need your help in figuring out how can we sustain the relationship between the two-year community college or the high school or the university in your region where your university is, with the curriculum that you need to find the talent, with the teachers that you need. In fact, you might be able to even share teachers and lend teachers, and we might need to break down policy to make it easier for some of your people to become teachers. If we're shortage of math and science teachers, let's get them from you, and you lend them to us. But let's cut through the bureaucracy of what it takes to get the certification to make it happen. But I need these ideas from you, and y'all have got to step up to the plate. I've got to hear from commerce. And it can't be just the education people by themselves, and it can't be commerce then going, y'all, we can't find the talent, we're moving our plan elsewhere. We need to be at the front end, not at the back end when it's usually too late. Proactive instead of reactive. So I want to hear from you. I don't have the answers. The answers are in this room. And whatever I've been communicating is not things I developed, it's input that you've told me. I've just put them together and figuring out the strategy on how to implement them. So that's my thought process.
We appreciate that input.
I will end with this on a positive note. And my predecessor and many of you would say, this is the best state there is in the United States of America. We've got to figure out the strategy and operations to beat our competition. And I want to beat Nikki Haley and Governor McDonnell, and the governor of Tennessee, Bill Haslam, is a good friend of mine. And Nikki Haley wants to beat us. And they want to steal your industry from North Carolina. And I've told Nikki, we're going to beat you. And she said, may the best woman win. And I said, whatever it takes. So I look forward to a long partnership. Thank you all very much.